Hey guys, welcome to another video on the challenge of today. And we do have two sentences like always, and we begin by simply dividing out um, our sentence using punctuation. And today we have a colon, as you guys see here. So I'm just gonna divide it all out. And again, I know these are just one words, but it's always good to have a visual of how sentences are broken up. And there we go. Okay, so quite a lot of sections. We do see 1, 2, 3 lists followed by the colon, so good punctuation there. And let's see the first sentence and by finding the subject and predicate as always. So the upper levels, building, notice that this is all capitalized, meaning that the building's adjective is actually what the building is called. So building is our subject, and is our predicate. And once again, guys, paying attention to this particular verb, which is the linking verb, is going to be used to describe the building in some way. But we're not going to continue on with that right now. We're just looking for the subject and predicate, so we continue. And again, after this break, we have a list. Okay, so that's not a sentence. And then we have the next sentence starting with like. Okay, so like is a comparative. Okay, technically it's an adverb, and you notice we use like a lot every time. Typically, in the modern era, we see people just saying, "Well, like I did this and like I did that." Uh, when you're saying like a lot, it really is. It's not neither an adverb nor anything grammatical. It's pretty much just a filler. Okay, so fillers are things like when we say uh, or you substitute a word. OMG or oh my god seems to be one of those as well. So in this case, you get to see how the word like really works. Okay. When we see like starting a sentence, it is a comparative adverb. So it's going to introduce a contrast sentence. Okay. Or comparative. Sorry about that. Yeah. So a comparative is going to compare one thing in this section of the sentence with another thing on the other side of the sentence. So when we look at what follows is all the other buildings. All the other is describing what? It's describing the buildings, okay? So we could circle this, okay? Or we could circle both because they are all buildings, but they are all other buildings. And other is an adjective here describing the buildings. So notice that when I go over here and I look at the next word, I do not find a predicate. Why? Because this sentence here, this part of the clause is a dependent clause. So let's read it like all the other buildings around it. All right. You need me to continue, right? Because it's dependent on the next clause, which is this one here. So if we're right, the second clause or second part of the sentence is going to start with a subject, and it is. All right. And now we have a predicate. Okay. Is typically a linking verb, but made is uh, one verb together. It is made. Okay. Made of this is a passive form of the verb to make. Okay. And the reason why we add an auxiliary here, so is an auxiliary verb here, is to indicate a passive tense because this is past, right? So it is made. Notice that when I'm saying it, what is receiving the action? Typically, if a verb is active, you're going to find that it's having an action on a direct object of some sort, which is going to follow made. So I make a chair, for example. Notice I is the subject, make is a predicate, and the chair is getting the action of the verb. But in this case, because it's a passive verb, the action is actually being done on the subject. Okay, that's why we call it a passive. The action is passed back to the subject. So it is made. What is it? What is made? It. Okay, awesome. That is the subject and predicate. So we have one verb here, which is the linking verb, and we have a passive verb. And don't forget, passive verbs don't take direct objects. All right. So the upper levels building is, and now we're going to get the the predicate nominative, and in this case, the oldest. Okay. Now, predicate nominative. The amazing thing about adjectives, guys, is that they come in 3 different types. Okay. So if you haven't heard me say this in class, or you have, and then you kind of maybe forgot about it, here's a little reminder. We have descriptive adjective. And a descriptive adjective is pretty much an adjective that just describes something. So if I'm going to take this adjective of old, old building. So old here is descriptive, simply describing the building. Next, we have something called a comparative adjective. And this would be older building. And usually when we're using a comparative adjective, usually you'll see something like than. Okay? So this idea is better. We can't stop there. We need to add, well, what is it better compared to? Comparative adjectives do that, okay? And superlative, right? From the Latin word meaning to literally lie above something. It means it hovers above everything else. And this is oldest building. So when we get a superlative, we are saying that something is the best and everything else is not. Usually it will follow the possessive, okay? And notice how nicely this actually is following a possessive. We have of, and okay, so we have of, oops, let me see if I can go back. For some reason it just highlighted and it didn't. All right, there we go. All right, so sorry about that. Once again, we have of, and of is going to separate our superlative, which is the oldest building, from something else. And we have schools. Okay, so this is a possessive describing that out of all the schools, this one is the oldest, which is the most superlative, the upper levels building. Okay, and then we have another preposition in, and we have the object of the preposition city. Okay, now this colon, very interestingly, is there because it's about to introduce those 3 schools. It's going to say lower levels, mid levels, and upper levels. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. Our amazing comparative adverb here. So it's a comparative clause. Like, there's our subject, all the other buildings. Predicate is a preposition, around, and then it, object of the preposition. It is made, notice a passive, and then we have another possessive. So what is it made of? It's made of glass and steel. Okay, so what possesses the make? Glass and steel. Okay, what possesses the make of a car? Aluminum. Okay, so we always use of in verbs like make or create to indicate what possesses the make. All right, awesome. And in terms of our verbs, the last thing is building is going to be third person singular present, and that's right, simple indicative. And then the last part, which is our third verb, also third person singular because it's an it. It is a present, even though made is a past tense. Notice that the auxiliary verb here is this is determining the tense in passive verbs. Okay, it is simple, it is indicative, but it is also passive. Okay, and this verb here is active. So the difference between active and passive verbs: active verbs take direct objects, passive verbs do not. So I make a chair. Notice that I is a subject, make is a simple indicative here, and it's active because the direct object is chair. But a passive, chair is made, which kind of sounds weird, but it's still grammatically correct. There is no direct object, right? Here's my subject, chair, and there is my passive verb. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm hoping you're gonna have an amazing week. We're gonna have a pretty crappy weather, or should I say bad weather this week, but hopefully by Sunday it all clears up and you guys are able to enjoy your time outdoors. Please, if you have any questions about the comprehension assignment that's due on Friday, please contact me. Always happy to hear from you and answer any questions you have. At the same time, on Friday, I want to get together and have a session of comprehension stories that we've done so far. Telltale Heart, pretty awesome, by Edgar Allan Poe. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.